I want to introduce Lauren Hogg to my right, a 14-year-old freshman at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Some of you may have heard her brother speak. Lauren and her mother, Rebecca. Rebecca, will you stand, please? Sorry. This is Lauren and David's mother.
And a public school teacher.
And a public school teacher, very important. These two women represent the strength, the strong women behind David and behind all men who walk in their footsteps. Lauren?
Hello, my name is Lauren Hogg, and I'm a freshman at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. On February 14th, I went through an unimaginable tragedy. Everyone at my school did, but unfortunately, now we know what it's like to go through it, and we can imagine what it's like. I was in my 4th period TV production class when it all started. We were getting ready for the end of the day. We were packing up. We were laughing with my friends. We were having a great Valentine's Day. We were right before this exchanging Valentine's Day gifts with each other. As we were finishing up and we were about to pack up, we heard this sound go off. And we thought it was weird because it was a fire drill. And earlier in the day, we had another one. We assumed that it was just another Valentine's Day prank. As we took our time and packed up, we walked down the stairs eventually, and as we walked down the stairs, people were joking and laughing. We were taking our time. People packed up their backpacks and took their time. And when we got down to the stairs, that's when I realized something really was wrong. As I looked behind my school where the bus loop was, where we were supposed to go for our fire drill, I saw kids running. I saw kids running for their lives, and the look in their eyes is something that no one should ever have to see. The fact of the matter is, kids still thought it was a joke. They thought it was a joke because we were told at our school that we were going to have a code red drill with actors and blanks being fired. Kids were laughing, while on the other side of my school campus, my friends were dying. We had no idea what was going on just a few feet away from us at that time. As I saw people running and people were joking, I grabbed my 4 closest friends in that class and I said, guys, something is wrong here. We have to get back to class. They're like, don't worry, Lauren, it's just a drill. And I was like, guys, I know something's wrong. And people always tell me to listen to my intuition, and I never really listened to them. But at this moment, something was telling me that something bad was happening. So I grabbed my friends, and I took them, and I said, we need to get back to class. I don't care if this is a drill or not. We need to be prepared for whatever this could be. So as we ran back to our class, we had to shovel through kids taking their time walking back up the stairs. When we got back to class, I called my brother. And I said, David, what's going on here? Something's wrong. Why are people running? Why are people screaming? And my brother was in another building than me, and all he could mutter out was, hide, Lauren, hide. He just kept on repeating, hide. I heard people screaming behind him, and I knew something was for sure wrong. When I got back to my class, we hid in a corner, and so many kids in my class still thought it was a joke. I grabbed my friends and we hid behind the television set where nails were sticking out because they built it a few years ago. As we shoveled in there and kids still thought it was a joke, we began to get texts from our friends. One of the group chats that we were in, a lot of my friends were in the freshman building, and these are what the texts were like. It started off with one kid saying, what's that noise? Why are people screaming? And next thing you know, another kid saying, what's that noise? Why does it sound like there's gunshots down my hallway? And the next thing you would know, my friend was screaming and telling us that they love us and the shooter was shooting through their classroom door. And the next thing you know, we were hearing stories. They were telling us that our friends were on the floor bleeding. And that's something that no child, nobody in America, no matter how old you are or where you're from, should have to go through. It's something that no one should have to go through. Hearing reports while we're stuck in the corner of a dark room, having our teacher cover the door, that our friends were laying on the floor, was probably one of the worst parts of that day. As we waited there in silence, one of our friends pulled up the news feed on their phone. While we were still hiding, we had no idea what was going on. The rumors coming through our phones and the Snapchats we were getting from our friends who were in the freshman building of the shooter shooting through his door is just something that you can never imagine unless you were there and saw what we saw. As we sat there, the look in people's eyes, I was holding people that I've never talked to hands, and every single person was telling each other how much they love each other. I never realized in my life until that moment how much something as little as saying I love you can make a difference. And now that I realize, throughout that whole day, it was a great day before this. It was probably the most happy I've ever seen any kids at Douglas. Everybody was saying I love you. And I realized later that day what really struck me is that even right before this, I was saying I love you to my friends. And that could have been the last time I said I love you to my friends or heard I love you from my friends. And for some of my friends, it was their last time hearing that. As we sat there in the darkness and we heard reports coming in about my friends being on the floor and teachers being dead on the floor, we were scared. We heard reports that there were multiple shooters. There were so many rumors going around. As we sat there, we heard someone come down our hallway. We didn't know who it was, but in that moment, all I could think about was my family. And people say that your life flashes before your eyes, but it really does. We didn't know who it was. Kids crowded behind the TV set and started trampling all over us. As I sat there, it's nothing. I'm 14. I shouldn't have to think about getting shot in my school, a sanctuary that should be safe for every child in America. But in that moment, all I could think about was getting shot and what it would be like and things I haven't said to my family. Having to text goodbye to your parents and that you love them is the worst thing imaginable. After about 3 hours of waiting in the darkness, not knowing what was going on, we heard our door get kicked open. We didn't know who it was, but thankfully it was the SWAT team coming to save us. When they came to get us, they made us line up in a row, and as we walked out, we had so many police officers and SWAT members pointing guns at us, and having to hold my hands above my head in my own school, and knowing that something was wrong in just a building right next to ours, it was horrific. Walking outside of that school and being told to run for our lives with our hands above our heads was horrible. Once I got out, the thing was, it was almost like a movie. Everything seemed to glow. In your life, I never realized that things could physically glow and sound could be obsolete. Things just seemed so extreme. My friends screaming, people not knowing what was going on. Our school had literally become a battleground. It was silent. Kids didn't know what was going on. Kids were shell-shocked because we just had a bomb basically dropped on our school. The worst part of that whole entire day was getting home. Because growing up, I always imagined and had a dream about seeing my friends or myself on TV someday. Like, oh my God, that'd be so cool. Maybe I'd be on Disney Channel. I always thought it'd be so cool. But getting home that day and seeing my friends' faces on TV became my worst nightmare. Collapsing on the cold, hard floor of my house, knowing that my friends were either missing or dead on the floor of my school where I usually laugh with them, was the worst part of that day. And that is why we need to do something. Because the things that I went through, the things that my friends went through, having to walk over our friends' bodies, no one in America or anywhere in this world should have to go through that. I would just like to add, as part of the Never Again movement, I would like to elaborate on something that hasn't really been that public, like in the news and stuff. So I would like to talk about mental health in our education system. We need mental health curriculum in our schools. We are forced to take sexual education and physical education, but we're never asked or even gotten the option to take mental health education. And I find that absolutely absurd. If anything, it is as prevalent and important as any other type of health. And if we were forced to take this, no matter you liked it or not, it could help you, whether it be yourself and you see the signs in yourself and you go to seek out help, or you see the signs in someone else and you go and talk to them, you walk up to them and talk to them, or go to a counselor and say, I think they're having a hard time. If one person in America could prevent something from like this by learning about mental health, that could make a world of difference. It could save people's lives. One thing I would also like to say is most schools are not addressing the school's social, emotional, and mental needs of the students. Most schools are more concerned about our standardized test scores than our mental health state. So I did a little math at my school, and according to our online website, we have 18 people in our counseling department. As of 2015-2016, there were 3,158 students. That means for every single guidance counselor, there's 175 students. We have no outlet at our school to talk to anybody, and this is schools all across America. So how, if you were going to talk to somebody, how would our guidance counselors have the time to meet with 175 students? I went to my guidance counselor the other day, she didn't know my name. We need more therapists and more trained social workers at our school to talk with us. And I think when that happens, that's when the real change is going to occur, when people learn about what mental health is in our schools, and we get rid of the sticky stigma surrounding every type of mental health. Thank you.